I'm finishing a post on this. It's been a long time experiment for me of just understanding the nature of sexual desire, sexual urges in relation to food. And I've pretty much brought it back to from my own experience, and then, hearing it from others on the path as well, is that a large portion of our sexual urges are actually due to an inflamed colon and inflamed bladder. The inflammation that we have accreted in our colon, from, the plaque and the buildup, and same in our bladder. We have plaque in our bladder. You understand, right? Like, we do have plaque and stuff in our bladder. So, let alone the fact that our intestinal tract is constantly working, constantly bulging. All three of these main organ systems are going to either push against the prostate in the male body, or just in general push against the sexual organs in both the female and the male bodies, right? So the core of this as a primary driver for sexual urge is very real. It's very much in my view, it makes up for a large portion of sexual urges. Now, this comes from deeper roots. One deeper level root could be hormonal imbalances, right? If you're filled up with acid waste in your whole body, from, again, the same things we've been talking about, well, then your hormones are going to be off. So females are going to feel this more strongly, but males will as well. And depending on the consumption, that will determine different forms of hormonal imbalances, right? In the adrenals and the thyroid, and all these areas. Obviously in the brain, the pituitary gland in specific has a lot of issues for a lot of people. So so the hormones are going to be off. So hormones are obviously affecting sexual urges as well. Then if you go one step deeper, where is all this consumption driven from? Well, it's driven from a lack of true emotional intimacy with self, others, and God. So that emotional trauma, which is often a mix of sexual trauma in pretty much everybody. So that is the root to a lot of why we consume anyways. So we see that all the symptoms are interconnected. And so then we come to the layer understanding of our sexual urges, and we see that the majority of the sexual urges are actually trauma-based. They're consumption-based. They are damaged-based. They are coming from an inflamed body, from unprocessed emotions, and a lot of other things. So this starts to completely reformulate the viewing on sexual urges as a whole, because if you go any long period of fasting or long period where the consumption really does shift, primarily to say fruit or juice fasting, dry, you pretty much won't have any sexual urges. Like, you could go like a full month or longer or whatever with like almost zero sexual urges or thoughts. So then, I mean, like, is that not a revelation? I mean, you guys are gonna have to experience this yourself, but I'm speaking from my own journey, where, like, all the confusion, all the topics of, romance and partnership and tantra and sexual energy and all the things, not just in the regular world. I mean, that's a whole other beast, but even in the spiritual space, it's still just this over dramatized and over theorized concepts that, because the majority of people that are speaking about it still haven't maybe engaged, what I'm speaking about here in regards to actually healing the inflamed colon and prostate, for one, and the bulging of the bladder that's pushing against the sexual urges, let alone the other ways in which sexual urges are manifesting. So in my view, like, a good 90% of all that conversation is just not necessarily rooted. It has partial truths, but it's not coming from an experiential space where there's been a long period of time where no real urges have come up. So it completely transforms the whole topic altogether. The conversation has changed, because now what we typically view to be sexual energy or sexual urges and sexual attraction, that very much will change. And it primarily changes within our own coming of purity and innocence, and the recognition that it's really just energy in movement. It's creative force in movement that wants to engage into expression and into fun and into play and into just like friendship and intimacy that has nothing to do with sexual urges, has nothing to do with the typical views of sexuality that we've come to know. So this is quite the topic, and it's very much interlinked with everything that we've already gone to in this course, and